But now I can figure out how to play it without pain. So
no pain. I like my Nintendo with a little bit of pain on the side.
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, we've got a full look at the Invincible series from Amazon.
Ooh, it was a bloody look, too. It's like the blood cut.
Yeah, and if you're not familiar with the show, this might help you understand it a little bit more. The other ones have come in a little vague. Danny Elfman is back working with Sam Raimi again, Mike. This is good news.
Yes, I finally know what Danny Elfman looks like because of those like one-off like Disney Plus documentaries. I think he's in like 2 of them at the very least.
He was in the prop one. Was at least the prop one for Nightmare Before Christmas, at least. So yeah, very interesting guy. Mortal Kombat gets an R-rated trailer.
Oh, beautiful trailer. I almost forgot about it at first.
Oh yeah, that's a fatality if I've ever heard one.
But speaking of things running blood red, we just you have no idea where this is going, do you, Chris?
No, absolutely not. This is kind of scary.
Me and my wife finished tie-dyeing some stuff over the weekend.
Oh yes.
I've never tie-dyed literally anything before, and of course she has all the experience tie-dyeing. So I just went on Amazon, bought a random kit. And it had everything we needed. So I think it's funny, though, because the main thing that spurred me to tie-dye is I had this one particular T-shirt that I really, really liked, but there was these 2 obvious stains on the front of it that I've tried everything to get out of them, like these 2 dots. And I was like, they're not coming out. Like, this shirt is basically ruined because I look like a slob if I ever wear it. So I was like, oh, I should just tie-dye it, and I'll just make sure the color runs over those 2 stains. And I'm reporting in, it worked perfectly. So if you ever have a really awesome shirt, whether it has a graphic design print on it or whether it's plain, it doesn't even matter if it's white. And from our experience, it doesn't even have to be 100% cotton. I think I did a 40% cotton shirt because we did 7 different items, and I think only one of them was majority not cotton, and it dyed just fine. So this is a sneaky technique to save a shirt, and actually kind of revitalizes it and makes it look kind of cool and fresh. So our favorite ones were the ones that had graphic prints on it, my wife had a Hey Arnold shirt with Arnold and Gerald on the front of it, and that she had a tie-dye pad around. Turned out great. Looks awesome.
So when you call all those shirts you did, they're not tie. Look at all this tie death. Is that
tie death? That's metal, Chris.
Yeah, I know. So look at all this tie death we've done here. I don't know if that's appropriate, but it sounds like a lot of fun. I was telling you last week when we were talking about this, kind of off the air, that this was one of those 4-H quote unquote projects you could sign up for whenever you had to do them, because I grew up raising cattle and pigs and other animals, so you can't just do those. You have to do another project on top of that, and I did tie-dye one year and it did not go well. But at the same time, you just turn it in and you say, look, there was an attempt made, and yep, good for you, buddy. So
an attempt was made. That's the best you can hope for. Yeah. But yeah, it turned out pretty fun. My hands still have a little bit. My fingers are still a little tinted, but overall not too bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, thankfully, you don't have to go out in public very often right now, so you can wash that off, and people won't look at you like, what's wrong with that the bloodstained man over there? What's going on with him?
This will be a plug for my TikTok that I'll plug at the bottom of the show. Is I'm pretty sure there's a pretty popular tie-dye hashtag out there on social media because people really like the reveals. I just posted a picture yesterday of all of our items banded up in rubber bands, and I got 2 direct messages right away from people that were just show us the reveals. We got to see the reveals. So there's a contingent of people that like the satisfaction of seeing the before and after. So we're going to do a little bit of that. So I'll probably put them up on my Instagram story, but I think they'll probably permanently stay up over on TikTok. So stay tuned for that later today, hopefully.
I bet there's a Reddit for that. I'm unashamedly subscribe to a Reddit subreddit called Power Washer Porn.
Yeah.
Where you see people's filthy messes before, and then they either show the video of them power washing them the after. I'm like, yeah, that's satisfying. I think we talked about last summer. I really got into that, so I bet there's a subreddit for tie dye as well. Tie death r/tie
dye.
There you go. Great. So this week it looks like we all watched some movies this week, Mike. We have been under snow and ice for the past week and a half, so I wasn't going anywhere. I wasn't doing anything. At best, I could try to stay warm before the power went off. And mind you, there are people worse off. Texas in the middle of the country, but I mean, at the same time, I'm like, what do you do at night when it's dark and cold and everything's covered in snow? You put something on TV. And this first one is actually going to tie back to the very last topic of the episode, Mike, with Captain Marvel. I put Captain Marvel on Monday because of actress Teyonah Parris, who plays Monica Rambeau in the current WandaVision series, will be in that movie. And I was like, maybe I could go see what the young version of this girl was like and see if it kind of plays off in the WandaVision a little bit. Because I hadn't revisited Captain Marvel as much as, say, the earlier Marvel movies recently. So I enjoyed that. One of my favorite things about that movie was the twist that the Skrulls are not the villains, like the Kree are the villains. And I really, really enjoyed that twist because they could have easily just been like, yep, just like the comic books, we did the same thing again. So I applaud them for kind of turning that on its head a little bit. But then also the portrayal of the Skrull, what is his name? Talos, by I can't think of his name. He was the villain, Director Krennic in Rogue One. But the actor who plays Talos really sold that point. And I also tried to find if I could look like, this movie was 2019, is that correct? Right before Endgame? Yeah. So I was trying to find the cracks in the CGI for Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson, because he's all like de-aged throughout that movie, right? There's a couple times I think we talked about when we did the read, like you see an older man's body.
Yeah, he doesn't quite have the agility that he used.
Yeah. But at the same time, they really, really had refined that technology by then, where you're like, I don't see any lines on the face. There's no weird warping or distortion. So definitely enjoyed that. And on the flip side, Friday night, I believe, or was it last night? I don't remember which one. This week was the 3-year anniversary for Black Panther as well, coming out in theaters. So I turned on Black Panther, which I've not watched as frequently. It's hard to watch. I'm gonna be honest, knowing that Chadwick Boseman has passed. Like, what do you do? Like it's such a good movie, and there's great actors in this, great performances, and you're like, okay, he's here, and then you're like, he's having conversations with the characters having conversations with his passed away father in the movie. Like, I'm not ready for you to go, and you're like, damn, this hits home. Like, it hits real hard for some of that. I do enjoy, again, the use of a vibranium. And one of my biggest disappointments with this movie, Mike, is they actually killed off Claw in this, because I'm gonna struggle with names today. The actor who played Claw, who's doing Venom 2, what's his name? Andy Serkis. Fantastic role in both this and Age of Ultron, right? So really, really thoroughly sad to see him go, but that movie still holds up after a while. So do that. Have you ever seen The Usual Suspects?
Yeah, I've seen it once, actually. This was a time in my life, I want to say maybe around college, maybe right after college, where you start to realize there's like this gap in movie knowledge that you really should start filling yourself in on. And I think The Usual Suspects fell in that kind of time period for me. Yeah,
so The Usual Suspects is one of those movies that it's Bryan Singer's one of his first movie before he went off the rails and has just been a horrible person. But he did this, and I think this got him the role for X-Men, right? Because he went and did X-Men later. But it's got a hell of a lineup of actors, and it's 1995 film. I don't want to ruin it for anybody, but this movie, my wife had never seen it. She's like, I want to see a movie I've never seen. And I'm like, okay, we'll watch The Usual Suspects. I've not seen it in a minute. And so she's there. She's starting out. She's like, oh, that actor looks familiar. She's like, I'm going to go look it up online. I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, don't do that. I'm like, don't do that. She's like, why? I'm like, well, there's going to be some twists and turns and some reveals here. I want you to be surprised and not see who's in the movie. So if you've not seen Usual Suspects, I don't want to ruin it. I don't want to spoil it for you, but there are some really, really fun twists and turns in this movie and reveals that make it something you just don't see coming at the end of it. So
yeah, the director and I totally forgot Kevin Spacey, both in this. Right. So two parts of the movie and not aging quite well.
No, not at all. But it's still. I mean, this is almost 30 years ago now. It's pretty fun little movie to make. With that, And then lastly, I think you can attribute, you can talk about this with me a little bit. I got my hands
diagram crossover of the Quaranstream.
I got my hands on Monster Hunter.
Oh, yes, you did.
2020 film video game movie that we were all craving, Mike. No, I've never actually played a Monster Hunter game. I couldn't tell you anything about it. I always think of Monster Rancher. Did you ever play that one?
Yeah, I recall Monster Rancher. I'm more familiar with Monster Hunter now because they had a newer version of the game come out. I want to say, I don't know if it was 2016 or if it's maybe slightly newer, maybe 2018. I know that it's been out long enough to have expansions on it in some right, but I know it's kind of hit the zeitgeist again recently. So I do know what Monster Hunter is now thanks to that. Seen some trailers, a little bit of gameplay, some Let's Plays, but yeah, I've never played it myself. But I think it's safe to say that nothing that happened in this movie looks anything like Monster Hunter that I am slightly familiar with.
Yeah, I believe Monster Hunter World was the one you're thinking of, and then they had the expansion. Was that like Iceborne, maybe?
Yeah, something like that.
So I think it was 2018-ish. But yeah, it looks. I mean, people love this game, right? This is a franchise people have come to love. I just kind of pulled it up here, and it looks like it started with PlayStation 2, and then got onto the new stuff. But this game is made. Or this movie, is actually made by the same people who did Resident Evil, Paul W.S. Anderson and his wife Mila Jovovich for this. And let me tell you, Mike, how much of this did you watch before I get into this? I watched the whole thing.
So I want to say I watched about half of it, and then it got to the point where I realized I'm tired of looking at the desert, so I'm just going to fast forward until I don't see desert anymore. So I fast forward a little bit more, and then they seem to meet some sort of desert oasis where there's still lots of sand, but I see some plants. And then there's like a Jurassic Park Lost World moment where they're like gazing at some like innocent monsters that won't kill you. They eat grass. And I was like, all right, I'm bored again. I'm going to fast forward until maybe I see another monster that's attacking somebody or until I see another human. Then I see Ron Perlman's face pop up again, which was interesting because he's at the very beginning of the movie, but he has got a weird look to him where it doesn't look like him at first at the beginning of the film. Which is shocking. He's a very, very captivating face. So once I see him again at the end, I hit play, and then I'm like, okay, now I'm instantly bored again. Fast forward to a monster. Okay, I see a dragon. And then they're just doing some like bullshit with the dragon, and then like I hit forward again, and then there was like some buffering issues, and I was like, oh, they're back on Earth, but there's still like 10 minutes left in the movie, and then I watched like two other scenes. The long story short is I probably watched maybe 50% of this movie overall.
Okay, perfect. Because you probably got out better than I did. And I think I was kind of working a little bit while I was watching it, but I guess where I was done. But this movie very much. If you're not one of the three main characters, and by three main characters I mean Mila Jovovich, Tony Jaa, or Ron Perlman, you're pretty much dead. They're gonna kill you in this movie, and they fight these creatures in like several different, like I guess, climate zones. Like there's the desert, there's some caverns, there's the oasis, and then there's like the rainy, I guess, portal at the top of a tower or something like that. And let me tell you, I had no idea what was going on. This movie was very, very confusing. I couldn't tell if someone was dead or hurt or poisoned, but I will tell you, this is the second Tony Jaa movie I've watched this year. Do you know what other movie he was in this year?
What else?
Jiu-Jitsu, my favorite of the Nicolas Cage movies that have come out recently, and that he sucked in that. I think he's just taken movies to take movies at this point. He was known for the Ong Bak movies, 1, 2, and 3. That was like his breakout. And he actually was a stunt double for Liu Kang in the second Mortal Kombat movie, Annihilation, which ties it into the show notes a little bit here. But this movie is I don't know if you're precious to this franchise of games, you're probably going to be offended. And if you're not precious to this franchise, you're going to be confused as hell. So this movie was not for anybody, and I'm pretty sure barely made any money back. I also am I think, didn't they, this got pulled in China, we talked about, because they made some sort of insensitive reference to the culture.
Yeah. ultimately, I don't think it ended up getting pulled. I think they just removed the joke entirely because it was just like a one-off kind of insensitive joke having to do with some sort of Asian stereotype, I believe. I think it actually hit the markets.
It was removed from circulation like 2 weeks in. It didn't even make it 2 weeks in China, and they pulled it. So they probably did them better at the end of the day. So I didn't even see this scene in here. You didn't watch it all, but I don't even remember the scene talking about the incident in the film.
I think it was removed from the American cuts as well, just because it's like a one-off joke. Just take it out. It's going to be better, especially since the opening credits of this film, you see like Tencent Productions, which I believe is a Chinese production house. They're gonna have say over the cut. So they're not gonna give you money if you put that in their film.
Well, Tencent prepared pull up modified versions of the film omitting this line, but even those showings were pulled.
Either way, this movie unfortunately just kind of is devoid of any sort of charm. It's just like such a, I want to say, generic kind of action film, but the only non-generic part I would say are some of the monsters. Like the first monster you see is kind of like this Taurus type of monster, this big bull with horns that kind of has a unique design to it because it looks like it might have some sort of arms, or it has some sort of like boulder protrusions on it. Yeah. At least it's somewhat interesting to look at. And then you go underground and there's kind of like this spider scorpion, which I kind of feel like I've seen that hybrid before, so it wasn't too unique to me. And also it was just all this like kind of blackness underground. There was kind of like this cool gore moment for a second with T.I.
Right.
With some spiders and some boils. So that kind of piqued my interest for a moment. But then it was a little unfortunate that at the very end of the movie, it's just a dragon. Like, that's it. There's nothing special about the dragon as far as I could tell. Just boilerplate dragon. So it's just kind of like, you think you maybe could have done a little something else with it. Give him, like, the couple extra horns, or, I don't know, make him, like, do anything. Give him two tails. I don't know.
I'm sure that creature is a very hard boss to beat in the game, by all means. But, it's... Honestly, it gave me Reign of Fire vibes there at the end for a little bit.
At least Reign of Fire, you kind of have a somewhat unique post-apocalyptic world attached to it, you know?
Right, but it all felt the same. Like, all these people were running at axes at a fire-breathing dragon. I'm like, okay, whatever. You're apparently your weapons have powers. Now, did you see the cat?
No, I didn't.
The cat creature in there, he's fantastic. You missed two of like the best scenes in this thing.
Okay. One thing I was going to ask you, I'm actually glad you watched it all the way through. I mean, spoilers for Monster Hunter. We don't recommend you watch this movie, and you probably won't anyway, so I don't care. But at the very, very end, the dragon comes to the main Earth, right? Does it go through the portal? How do they defeat it? Do they just shoot it with a bunch of stuff, or do they take it down with like a normal primal weapon or a sword? That's one thing I don't know.
Multiple things. So apparently, they know that this creature, and I just have my notes pulled up here. It's called a Rathalos. Right before it breathes fire, you can shoot it and ignite all the whatever, I guess, explosive gas in its body. So Mila Jovovich somehow survives a crashed helicopter while strapped to a stretcher yet again, and she shoots it with a flare in the mouth, like with that little hand thing they have, and it blows up, and then she thinks it's dead, and it comes back, but then you find out Tony Jaa and Ron Perlman came through the portal, and he shoots it with his explosive bows and arrows in the neck before it dies. And then another creature comes through called a Gore Magala, and you're like, okay, there's a bigger one. It looks also more like a dragon, and then the movie just kind of ends while they're fighting it on the other side of the thing. So.
The hubris of thinking that anyone was going to clamor for a sequel for this. But at the same time, I would say, didn't they make like 1 million Resident Evil films? So somehow Paul W.S.
Anderson,
dude.
yeah.
Somehow he knows how to keep a franchise going when nobody cares about it. So
this movie could have, with the the Eastern market, probably been really made a lot of money and done well, because I think Monster Hunter sells really good in Japan and China in the video game world. And I think it could have even been made over there. But that's where he's making his money to get the sequels. And they even set this up with a cloaked, hooded person watching the battle from the top of the tower. Like they were fully prepared to go in on a sequel, but I don't see it coming. And best case scenario, maybe they reboot it in 5-6 years or later. But this movie just Woof, man.
No charm, no whimsy, no fun.
Save your money. If it's on streaming, you might be able to find some entertainment out of it, but I would not. Again, like Willy's Wonderland, drop your money, your hard-earned money, on a movie that just hit digital this week.
Yeah, this film is the embodiment of the opposite of the other film that I watched, Down Periscope, which is a fun mid-90s movie from the director that you reminded me of, Dumb and Dumber. Dumb and Dumber? Dumb and Dumber,
yeah.
Yeah, I was channeling the sequel title in my head. But Down Periscope is just this silly, fun movie about Frasier who gets his own submarine, and there's just fun, wacky moments, and it's nice. Watching this movie, I realized there was like a run of submarine movies in the 90s. There was The Hunt for Red October, Down Periscope, Crimson Tide. In the 90s, it was like hardcore submarines, and it reminded me of like the one computer game that my 90s computer in my parents' house came with was Tom Clancy's, I think it was just Tom Clancy's SS or Tom Clancy's something, but it was like a submarine hunting game. And I remember me and my brother cozying up next to the computer, and we had like a flight joystick for some reason. I don't know if it came with the game.
Everybody had one of those in the 90s.
Yeah, it's like everyone had one, but nobody knew why they had it. So we would just pilot this submarine, but we're kids who want like high octane video games, but we're stuck moving this incredibly slow submarine, and then like these text prompts would pop up trying to engage us in the story. We're like, oh, we don't care, we just want to shoot the torpedoes. And I don't think we ever once beat a mission on that game, but I was like, man, the 90s, that was the decade for submarines.
Can I interject? It's called Tom Clancy's SSN.
Oh, SSN, yeah, that's right. Social Security number.
Yeah, exactly. And I just pulled it up here because I'm like, man, that sounds familiar. But everyone had a joystick. But also, Down Periscope was not by the directors of Dumb and Dumber. That was the Farrelly brothers, and this was done by David Ward. But it has a lot of the same actors, right? Like,
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, Lauren Holly. I'm trying to think of the Harlan Williams in this. This is one of those things, and not to give it away. I quoted this movie way too much when I was asked to get this movie for somebody, and I was like, they're like, why do you remember this movie? I'm like, I just remember watching it a lot when I was younger for some reason.
Engraved in the brain. And
it's like one of those 99-cent buy it at a video rental store. We don't want it, we can't rent it. And correct me if I'm wrong, was it rated R, or what was the rating on this movie back then?
Oh gosh, I don't know. Back in the 90s, I feel like PG-13 and rated R sometimes were just conflated together. You never knew what you could exactly get away with in a 90s comedy.
Man, I don't even see it on Wikipedia. Let's see here, just to be.
If it was rated R for anything, it would have been for language. I didn't see any
PG-13.
kind of like comedy nudity as you might see.
The Rotten Tomatoes scores 12%. I just.
That's a shame because it's a fun movie.
It is fun.
I'm a fan of Kelsey Grammer. I'm a fan of also war games in movies where like the story doesn't exactly want to deal with war or international conflict, so they're like, let's just do a war game. So it's like you get to do all the tropes of a war movie, but we actually don't have to build up an enemy anywhere and really put stakes into it. But Down Periscope, it's not streaming anywhere, unfortunately. But I think this would be worth a rent, if you like the cast and you want some silly comedies, and of course if you want to get your submarine on. Which I'll jump to the other thing that I watched that also includes submarines. I rewatched Aquaman.
Yeah.
We pulled it up on HBO Max. I watched it while I was working out because nothing's gonna motivate you more to lift than seeing Jason Momoa shirtless. That dude's like ripped, and I'm just like, I'm gonna be like that someday. And then you put like an extra rep, or you put an extra 5 pounds on the bar. So the one thing that I totally forgot about this film, which I'm sure we referenced in our spoiler cast for, is I forgot how bizarre the soundtrack for this movie is. So weird. Like, I'm not talking about the score, any sort of the orchestral music. I'm talking about the weird music choices that James Wan put into this film. It's just so bizarre. There's like Pitbull in it. There's like weird, just kind of like, I don't want to say 90s grunge, but I want to say almost like grunge for commerce, like something that you would have seen in like a commercial, like trying to sell you like hard lemonade at some point in time. It's a thing that you totally forget about. Whereas like you remember the iconic songs that are in Guardians of the Galaxy, and you go back and you revisit the soundtrack, but you forget the weirdness that was put into Aquaman. But overall, rewatching it again, I was like, this feels like it's a perfect place in like MCU phase 1. If just the DCEU could have started off with Aquaman, maybe things would have maybe the pace would have been set a little bit better.
I think Aquaman and Wonder Woman are very good examples of first-time movies, right? Like, hell, I'd even throw Man of Steel in, could probably fit in there, but after, the other two in that trilogy kind of tanked that pretty quick. But I mean, I think I agree. It's a great film. And then again, Tamora Morrison, known for playing Boba Fett now, Jango Fett and Boba Fett. He was still hanging out as Aquaman's dad in that movie.
Yeah. And you kind of forget about the characterization that Jason Momoa gives to Aquaman. He's kind of like this, just chilled, like laid back, like dude that likes goofing around. And said like, oh, we could have just peed on it and that would have fixed it. So I kind of appreciate that a little bit more because you realize it took Chris Hemsworth and Thor a few movies to kind of get to that point where they really started Aquaman out like that. So. Interesting. I liked revisiting it, but finally here on the Quaranstream before we move along, I finally got around to watching the season 2 of One Punch Man because it's finally dubbed over on Hulu, and I'm a scrub and I'm only going to watch my anime dubbed. I'm sure a lot of you hate me for saying that.
I don't think scrub's the right word, but we'll let you go on.
Scrub dub, it rhymes, man. Scrub dub. Yeah. I'm watching One Punch Man season 2. Man, this show is so fun. It's so hilarious because you always have to surmount this problem of having this character that literally can't be defeated, and you have to go out of your way to build up all of these enemies around you because he's going to beat everybody in one punch, but you have to make that one punch as entertaining as possible. So you have to spend episodes on lore and characters and creating a bad guy who's like killed hundreds of people in front of him, and he's fought all of these people, and you have to turn people into monsters and mutate them and like have all of these like second tier characters get like pummeled, and then they finally meet Cyberman, and then he's just like punches them and then they're done. It's just great. It's so funny. Like, I don't know exactly how the formula is going to change like in more seasons moving forward, but I don't really care because it's a perfect show for me to watch while I'm working and just have it over in the corner.
And it's a great parody of again anime and overpowered characters. Like, we grew up on Dragon Ball, and like I know that people are like, was it Naruto, My Hero Academia? There's always this one character who's always powerful and breaking through his limits, and then you just have Saitama, who's just like this regular dude who just happens to be the strongest man, and he's boring as hell outside of that. So it's a great parody show for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I was wondering if season 2 was going to be able to pull off the same magic trick again, but they're doing a pretty good job, and it's fun. Just Cyberman's problems are just so funny. He can't fight somebody because he's trying to keep his wig from falling off, so it looks like he's losing the match, but like he just doesn't want his wig to fall off. It's just great. So you can go check that out over on Hulu if you don't like to read subtitles. But that is the Quaranstream. And I had to include the Corn Feast just real quick because I ate the weirdest thing of my life this weekend, Chris. I don't know if you know this, but they are making pizza crust out of chicken now. Does that make any sense to you at all? Have you heard of this before?
I have. I thought it was like a joke. I didn't think it was real.
It's so weird. It's like it's in the frozen pizza aisle. The box is very, very small, and the pizza inside of it is even smaller. It feels like when you open it, you've uncovered like an extra large bagel bite, and you're just like, I paid $8 for this. So I waited till it came on sale because I really wanted to experiment with my pizza, and the crust is made out of like egg whites and like mechanically separated rib meat, I think is what the instructions say. So I was just like, oh, do they find some, like when you cook this, does it get crispy? What's going on here? Like, I'm not keto or anything like that. I'm not afraid of gluten. I just was curious. So I made the pizza according to the manufacturer's instructions, and it's so weird. It just feels like they put pizza toppings on top of a blank chicken nugget. It doesn't crisp up at all in any way, shape, or form. It's just like the inside of a chicken nugget with stuff on top of it. I took a bite of it and I was like, I wasn't necessarily disgusted because all of the stuff there tastes good. Like, it just tastes like chicken with cheese on top of it. So like I got up and I went over to the bread box and I took out a piece of bread and I put my pizza on top of bread because it felt like I was eating a sandwich without the bun on it. So I would not recommend this, especially because it costs as much as a normal frozen pizza, which I'll have much more fun with. But it was just so weird. Yeah. If you ever see pizza where the crust is made out of chicken, just don't expect a pizza experience. It's not what you're going to get. It's so weird, so bizarre. I had to tell somebody else about it because it was so freaking weird.
You put this in the notes. Just the note says chicken pizza, and I'm like, how weird can chicken pizza be?
I didn't want to give it away. It's not what you thought.
And then he's like, what do you think it is? I'm like, I think it's chicken taco pizza from Domino's. And it's not. But I would recommend chicken taco pizza. So.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not a hater of alternative crusts. I would enjoy trying like a cauliflower crust or any other type of crust, as long as it mimics some sort of bread. Chicken can't be bread. I'm sorry, but this is like alchemy. You can't turn lead into gold. It's like we're trying to go back to the medieval era and everyone's trying to do sorcery on pizza. Like, if you want to eat pizza, just eat it. But, maybe just ride your exercise bike for a little bit. Mm-hmm. There you go. That's my rant on weird pizzas and the QuaranFest.
Well, let me talk to you about, again, we're getting into the spring season of stuff here. I need to find the photo I sent you. I think it's spring. Peeps come with Easter, right? Everyone loves Peeps at Easter. I don't like Peeps. I don't like Peeps at all. My wife fucking loves them, and I can't stand them. But instead, she did find 2 weird new flavors of Peeps out in the wild, and I said, for the QuaranFest, for our superhero snack, I will try these. And the first one is raspberry flavored Peeps that are dipped very lightly in a cream flavored fudge, so essentially white chocolate. And very much raspberry, very much a raspberry Peep with a crunchy bottom, if you will. It's okay. It's fine. If you like Peeps, I'd recommend trying it. It's rather than the regular flavor, I think. But the other one I've not tried yet, Mike. I'm going to try these tonight because it's the big box. Is the Hot Tamales Fierce Cinnamon Peeps.
Ooh.
And what did you ask me? Does it taste like Fireball in a Peep form?
Yeah, that's cinnamon whiskey Peeps. Yeah. I feel like they would sell more of them if they put the Fireball logo on it instead of the Hot Tamales logo on it.
Yeah, exactly. This just makes it PG for the kids to eat. So they're the same color. I could literally confuse these Peeps easily, as you could tell here, between the raspberry and the cinnamon one. So I'm gonna give those a try tonight with dinner. But like, I'm not a Peeps fan, but if anyone sees any Peeps they like and you like them and have a certain flavor, let us know, because you're weird, people. You're definitely weird. So
yeah, I mean, believe it or not, this is a podcast about superhero news, but sometimes we just got to let you know about the newest technology when it comes to Peeps and chicken.
Chicken, Peeps, and all the movies we watched this week, because you guys want to know. All right, let's jump into the news, Mike. The first big news here is a new series from Disney Plus announced called Assembled. And the first episode of Assembled is called The Making of WandaVision. Which, when you're like, well, this makes sense, right? This is essentially the Disney Gallery show they did for The Mandalorian, but for the Marvel shows. So my assumption is they're likely going to do this for every MCU show on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think this is great. I'm curious if this is going to be episodic or a one-shot, because they did a one-shot for season 2 of Mandalorian. But the first season, they did a few different episodes. The season 2 one was one shot because of the COVID pandemic, I believe is what they said. And so they've not really made an announcement on this. I would like to see one per episode, because literally in WandaVision, every episode is a different decade. Like, I don't want them to blow through that very quickly, right? Like, I would love to see how they made every decade feel authentic to the show. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I've been watching some of the other documentary stuff on Disney Plus. The Inside Pixar one is really, really great. There's this one episode where you don't expect the localization team is going to be very interesting, but they are very, very clever, where they have to make like 40 different versions of a film for different markets around the world. And it's not just about like, changing the dialogue or like changing like the text of like, oh, somebody opens up a menu on screen. The menu needs to appear in different languages. But they do this really cool thing called neutralization, where if they can replace text with just symbols or graphics or images, they don't have to worry about that across any of the movies at all. So there was this one shot where they're showing like a campground in a movie. I don't remember what movie it was, what Pixar film, but it's a campground, and there's like a sign that says campground. So instead of trying to translate the word campground into 40 different languages, they just replaced it with a bunch of those iconic like symbols that you would see along the roadside if you're coming up to a campground. Like, oh, it's like an icon of a tent, an icon of a tree, like an icon of a bear or something like that. So I thought that was really interesting.
So emojis are taking over.
Yeah, that's one way to say it.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been maybe episode 7 or 8 or something. But I think I don't know if they're going to do multiple seasons, but I think all 10 episodes for Inside Pixar are up now, ready to watch. So just go buzz through those. It'll make you want to move to Emeryville and work for Pixar if you can even get in there, because they make it look very, very desirable and very hard to get a job there.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and correct me if Raya and the Last Dragon is not Pixar, right? Or is it?
No, that's Disney's animation.
Okay, but there's like a short coming out before that as well. I heard this week.
Yeah, could be possible.
I just don't know if it's Disney or if it's a Pixar short. So
yeah, I don't know.
It's a good place to put them since it's going to digital. But but yeah, Assemble debuts March 12th on Disney Plus, literally the week after the last WandaVision show. We have 2 left after this week, so this will help bridge that gap before Falcon and Winter Soldier drops on March 17th. March is shaping up to be a busy month for us, Mike. Like the busiest we've had since everything shut down about a year ago. So I'm excited to get back into this stuff. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, Danny Elfman will be rejoining Sam Raimi to score this film. Do you remember one of the most iconic Sam Raimi and Danny Elfman movies, Mike?
No, I can't.
It's Spider-Man. It's Spider-Man.
Okay.
He did. So they did Spider-Man 1 and Spider-Man 2, but apparently Spider-Man 2 kind of made Danny Elfman kind of resent Sam Raimi, I guess, because of how he had to work on the film. So they didn't work together again until I think 2011. But Spider-Man, great films, right, from Sam Raimi. He's coming to the MCU. Other superhero movies Danny Elfman's done include the original Batman. I forgot he did Age of Ultron. I'm going to be completely honest. Forgot that. And then he did just the first Justice League, not Zack Snyder's Justice League, Joss Whedon's Justice League. So I can't remember the music from that, so I don't think that's a compliment. But he's no stranger to diving his toes into this a little bit. Now, did I talk about last week? I watched Doctor Strange last week. I think I mentioned that.
No, I don't recall, Chris.
Well, I did, and I think I texted you and said that the sling rings can open portals to other dimensions. Specifically, he says dimensions. But Michael Giacchino's work on that was really fantastic. I love hearing the stringy, gothic tunes in that. So I hope Danny Elfman kind of ups that a little bit in this next big film. So it's cool. The Fantastic Four news, Mike. I didn't think we'd be getting Fantastic Four news so quickly. This is great. Marvel is just now meeting with writers on this, so there's no script or details really locked down that we can share. And then Jon Watts is still shooting Spider-Man 3, so that means he's too busy to work on this. So you might be asking yourself, why is this news if there's no news? Well, it's because this awful rumor that it's not awful, it's just I don't know who's said this and why it's being shared, but that Jennifer Lawrence has been cast as Sue Storm for Fantastic Four, and she's filming it in 2 months in Australia.
I mean, that seems a little too early if they don't even have the script yet.
So, well, that rumor came out, and then everyone was like, literally nothing's been announced on this other than the fact they're making a movie for this.
Yeah, I mean, the only way I could explain like something being filmed in 2 months is maybe like a cameo or an after credit scene or something like that, but there's no way they're shooting any Fantastic Four movies, right?
Well, they said movie. I don't know if they've even got to the point where they would be casting it. Why would you cast someone without a script or like a story in mind, right? Like that's how you get bad movies. Like you're like, I mean, Jennifer Lawrence would be a great get. I mean, I'm not knocking if she did Sue Storm, but you cast Jennifer Lawrence because she looks like Sue Storm, and then we have to write a movie around that means probably not getting anything good that you want. So this was just the weirdest rumor I had that came out this week. I'm like, I gotta share this with Mike because
I gotta imagine there's gonna be so many Fantastic Four rumors because you got 4 iconic characters, right? You have 4 casting slots that you can circle rumors around. So obviously you have the strongest one where all the fans want it to be what's his face, John Krasinski and his wife Emily Blunt. Emily Blunt starting to make maybe a little bit more Disney sense just because she's already in the Disney fold. I mean, John Krasinski, he's a big get, but at the same time, like, I don't want them just to do it just because the fans want it. I want them to do it because it makes sense. And if you're casting those people, you're casting, I'm not calling them old in any way, but they would have to be like seasoned scientists, right? They would have to be like people in their prime. So if that's where the story needs to go, that makes sense, but make as long as it makes sense, right? So we'll have to see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's just, I mean, I don't know. I guess people are grasping at straws for news here because we don't have anything about Fast Forward. You said there's 4 casting notes, but also there's 4 horrible movies that have preceded this. They've never nailed it right, and Marvel is when they do something, they're like, we go out, we do it right, we want to make it a good movie. So there's a huge opportunity, a lot of eyes watching this to make sure they can do better than Fan Four Stick from 2016, which bar's low. So do that. Over in the Netflix side of things, the rights for Jessica Jones and the Punisher have reportedly returned back to Marvel. The reports, again, I don't have the contracts or the paperwork in front of me, that says after their cancellation, every character has 2 years of exclusive rights on Netflix before they can go back to Marvel. So those were the last 2 canceled shows, was Jessica Jones and the Punisher, which I think were the last 2 series to debut, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think Jessica Jones was the very last thing to air on Netflix.
Yeah, Punisher season 2 and Jessica Jones season 3, and then they join Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Iron Fist back at Marvel. So that's good, right? I mean, do you think they'll try to get these shows from Netflix to put on Disney Plus, or do you think they'll just leave them on Netflix?
I honestly, I feel like they're going to stay on Netflix, to be honest. I don't know why Netflix would want to give up anything in their catalog at this point in time, especially since they're Netflix originals. It would be a weird precedent. I've yet to see a Netflix original, move over to another platform that wasn't like a really early show where they didn't quite get their contracts down right. So, I forgot to mention the other week when I say I was watching season 2 of Dickinson on Apple Plus. Finn Jones is in it, and he's doing a great job. Chalk that up as redemption from Iron Fist. But remember when Iron Fist ended with him with 2 glowing guns? Man, what could have been?
yeah, what could have been? I told you I dove into some videos revisiting the Inhumans the other day, right? Because God damn, that was awful. And the only reason I said it is because the same showrunner who brought us Iron Fist was then given the job to do Inhumans, and we talked about it. I'm like, that's the worst decision you could ever make. But, and then was it Luke Cage the villain at the end of his season 2? Yeah,
he kind of became like the anti-hero, like the defender of Harlem, but from a good or bad point of view. I don't exactly remember, but who knows? We could see all of these characters again if there's a true multiverse out there in the MCU, but I don't think anything's going to be permanent. I think they'll all be rebooted at some point in time.
Yeah, I think the strongest is Charlie Cox showing up in Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's already dealing with multiverses anyway, so, we could easily...
Yeah, I mean, come on. Heroes for Hire would be a perfect Disney Plus series,
right?
That's the best way. That's the best way to bring these characters back.
Yeah, I agree. And making a comedy, like tied into She-Hulk, like you bring her in and make it a comedy kind of thing. That's fantastic.
Yeah, like there could be somebody on the ground in New York. Who knows? It could be She-Hulk, any other character that says like, "Oh, I need to get a job done, but I'm busy. I know 2 people. I'll give them a call. But do you have the money? Do you have the cash?" And then bam, they show up. And you don't have to deal with an origin story. You could just kind of pepper in some details of their backstory in the first couple episodes. You could do like a backdoor pilot for them or something like that.
The only other thing I would say is put Iron Fist literally in Shang-Chi because he was literally a martial artist, right? Like,
oh yeah, that's a great way to introduce him.
You could put him in there. You don't have to explain him. Like, yep, here's the Iron Fist, and this is what he does, and you're like, okay, we know him, we got it, boom. But you could put him in there. If he loses a tournament, he has to go back to New York and find a second job. So always an option. The Ahsoka series seems to be moving forward and casting, are looking to cast Ezra Bridger from the Star Wars Rebel show, and they're eyeing Mena Massoud, I probably butchered that, the live-action Aladdin from the movie Aladdin in this series. I think that'd be great. He hasn't done anything since then, and, really Aladdin wasn't a horrible film overall.
Didn't he have like an article that hit right around the time Aladdin came out where he was like, "Oh, I'm this big blockbuster star, but I'm not getting any other roles. It's just been this one." I don't know. Maybe I'm making something up, but I feel like there was some sort of narrative around this guy. So whether that's the case or not, it's cool that, he could possibly be hitting another big franchise. So good for him.
Yeah. It sounds like he's maybe doing something in Netflix coming up, but I think he could pull off an Ezra Bridger look.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super familiar with the character. I've only seen a couple episodes of Rebels, but yeah, I think the age seems to be about right if you're kind of aging up the character for this kind of Mandalorian time zone.
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I'm excited for the Ahsoka show. I forget we had all those Star Wars shows announced, so every time I get a little bit of news, I'm like, yeah.
That day just seems like a fever dream still. I can't quite recall everything I saw.
It feels like I'm like, yeah, 2 weeks ago that Disney investor call, and we're like, no, man, that was like half a year ago now. So love it, absolutely love it. Do you ever watch the Constantine movie with Keanu Reeves himself?
I remember seeing that back when it came out. I didn't really know much about the comic book character at all, but I mean, it was Keanu Reeves. He was hot from The Matrix. I remember in the trailers there was some sort of shotgun that looked like a cross, and I was like, that looks cool. Uh-huh. So I went and watched it.
Yeah, and it had Evie from The Mummy as the lead actress in that movie, right?
Mm-hmm.
So great. It was a great time for all these actors. Well, too bad. Bad Robot and HBO Max are working on a darker reboot of this character.
Darker.
And I think darker than he's on CBS or CW for a while too.
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah, I don't know.
He crossed over to CW. Yeah.
Yeah.
Author, book writer Guy Bolton, who's written the books called The Pictures and the Syndicate. I don't know these novels. Has written the pilot and is expected to serve as a head writer. So they're moving forward with this Constantine show. And also will possibly link to Bad Robot's announced Justice League Dark series they're working on over there. So this could be their first step in it, or what?
It seems like it would have to, right? If you have Bad Robot working on 2 DC shows that are both on HBO Max and are both like in this dark kind of supernatural world, it would be weird if they didn't.
Do you think that they could possibly take for since we're just talking about the Defenders approach to this? Do these like little mini seasons of these characters and then bring them together for like a Justice League Dark?
I mean, we've already seen it technically work, right? I mean, the Doom Patrol showed up in Titans, and then they had their own show. So yeah, it doesn't even seem like backdoor pilot is the way to describe it anymore, because that almost seems like a way to like test the waters of just like, oh, can this work as a show? I think it's more like what you see like musicians doing on Spotify, right? It's like, oh, we all want to cross-pollinate, so when somebody searches you on Spotify, they also come across me, right? So it's just like, just mix them all up, because if somebody likes one part of it, they'll like another part of it. If they like who they end up casting as Constantine, they'll definitely want to watch the Justice League Dark show because they'll be in it as well. So yeah, pollinate it all together. I mean, Marvel's been doing it for a decade now.
Yeah, exactly. And build the characters up before you just give us everybody at once, I think. That was what we learned with DC, right? Like, we don't care about some of these characters if you just introduce them literally in the movie for the first time. Constantine definitely looked like it's getting a reboot and coming to HBO Max. I think HBO Max is going all in on the DC stuff, so I'm excited to see some of that. And speaking of DC shows on HBO Max, the Aquaman King of Atlantis animated series, 3-part series, debuted its first look this week. And the internet is broken, Mike. It broke the internet.
Polarizing for sure. This is like deja vu, because this is exactly what happened when Thundercats Roar was announced, and everybody cried the same cries, the same tears that they had when Teen Titans Go was a thing, right? Yeah. Teen Titans Go, killed the original Teen Titans, so now we're stuck with this kiddie version of it. And then Thundercats Roar came out, and they're just like, no, we wanted more of an adult anime one, even though they made that one already. So we're back here having the exact same conversation again, because it's the same art style. I'm sure that there's some executive producer crossover. I don't know if the showrunner from Thundercats Roar has any work on this, but the art style is identical. Right. So we were doing a little research before the show, looking at Thundercats Roar, and it has an abysmally low rating for it. Right. But I think that's honestly just quote unquote the haters, if you will, because it's unfairly low. I mean, it's got like a 16% on Rotten Tomato. It's got like a 2.5 on IMDb. And it's just like, this is a cartoon, folks. Like, I've watched a few episodes of Thundercats Roar, and it's fun. Like, the animation is like so kinetic. There's so much sakuga. Is that what they call it? Where sakuga, I think that's what it's called, when basically you go like you animate on ones and you just see this beautiful clean animation, but people are just so triggered by the animation style and what their expectations are. And I think some people just need to take a chill pill and realize that like this is like a cartoon. They're not making like an adult animated series for you. This is the same audience that they're trying to hit for like Teen Titans Go. Like, there's a subset of people, or should I also call them children, that are at home that are looking for stuff to watch. Like, I don't know. I have this weird opinion where people like, you need to like chill out. Like this isn't for you, but you can watch it if you want it.
Well, that's the other thing. This is literally a 3-part series teaching kids about ethical and ecological sustainability in the oceans, pretty much. Like, right? Like, keep the environment healthy. This is produced by James Wan and his Atomic Monster Productions. And like, this isn't supposed to be a long-term thing that's going to build up these characters over time. It's just how it's like, hey kids, don't be assholes, don't pollute. It says Aquaman and Mara. Like, that's what it's for. Like, if kids tested this artwork and like, yeah, they respond to it, yeah, go with it, man. Like, keep going with it. You're not here to make I guess the internet what are the warriors, the keyboard warriors happy.
Even if it was long term, like we often talk about like toxic fan bases, like the Rick and Morty fan base. There's like a cartoon fan base that ranges from the age of like 14 to 24, where they think all of their scathing criticisms is gonna make it through to Cartoon Network or executives over at HBO Max that are just like, we don't care about you because you're not the one going to the toy aisle that's gonna buy toys of these things. You're looking for like highly polished maquettes that you're going to spend like $200 on. I just think it's like so funny when people waste so much of their effort like complaining about like this one image, about Aquaman and Mara that looked like they were drawn like, in like a cartoony style. I don't know. People just seem to think if this exists, other things don't exist. Maybe there's just this like maybe there's just this void of Aquaman, and they're just like, anything that comes out, it's got to be amazing. But I don't know. People just need to relax.
Well, I just kind of went and looked it up here. So this is done by Warner Brothers Animation, which is a huge company, right? Good Lord, they did do Thundercats Roar. King of Atlantis. They are working on what's coming. The Gremlins: Secrets of the Mogwai, the most recent Animaniacs reboot, the Harley Quinn show. Again, like you said, Teen Titans Go. Like, they've done everything. Like, this was a choice because they probably want to hit that audience of Teen Titans Go and the Thundercats, right? Like, they really want to, and that's fine. Perfectly cool.
Yeah, there's been this really big push across the streaming services recently where I think it might have been HBO announced a large slate of animated stuff that they're producing. I think Apple Plus just made a huge deal with Skydance Animation to make a bunch of featured and series animated stuff. So all of these streaming services, they realize a part of the streaming war is capitalizing on the younger kid audience, and you're just going to have to sit back and realize that like that isn't always going to be for you. So just like chill, take a chill pill. I actually don't mind this art style. I kind of like it. It's kind of weird and goofy, and I like stuff like that. So, if it's not for you, just keep scrolling, I guess, and realize that there's actually humans behind this stuff that are making it, and are doing their best to make something interesting.
Yeah, don't stream it if you don't want to, man. It's fine. That's what the options are for. But I tell you right now, again, my wife's a teacher. Kids younger and younger know how to get it and stream stuff they want to watch more so than going to a satellite remote and then figuring out those channels. So good for them. The Flash movie's making some casting announcements here, and that's not Batman. Okay, surprise. Sasha Calle, I think, or Cal. I want to say it's Calle. I know she's Hispanic, but it could be Callie. From the show that we obviously both watched, The Young and the Restless, has been cast as Kara Zor-El, aka Supergirl, in the movie.
Yeah, that's the first thing I looked up too. I was like, I checked out her IMDb, and I was like, oh, The Young and the Restless, a soap actress. Yeah, we're definitely not going to know her. And she had some other short films underneath her belt. So for all intents and purposes, especially us here on the show, she's unknown, which I usually like. I like it when they cast a new character with somebody we've never heard before, because that means that person really embodies the role according to like the producers and like the people over in casting, right? Because when somebody really famous, like a Jennifer Lawrence might be cast in a role, they're half thinking, she could be good for the role, but also half thinking, oh, she'll sell tickets. It doesn't really matter if she's not necessarily perfect for it. Maybe she'll find her own version of the character and it'll all work out in the end. If it's somebody that you've never heard of before, that means that it's kind of coalescing at the perfect moment. So I think that's exciting. But of course, if we're talking about drama with Aquaman in the Twitter replies, I guess you also gotta mention all the crazy people out there that if you don't cast somebody that's the exact same color they were in the comic books, they're doing it all wrong, which is just, ridiculous and stupid and pointless. So I mean, there's so many ways you can reinvent the character of Supergirl. I'm all for it.
Well, and then also, I mean, literally right now there is Supergirl the show on TV, right? This is the last season, so they're gonna go right from the CW's version to this version, and people, it's very quick, but I mean, people may have some conflicting ideas, but whatever. It's the comic book universe. You can have multiple people be the same character across multiple universes, and obviously the Flash will be dealing with multiple universes. So do you think maybe will be the DC Prime universe Supergirl, or do you think it'll be Batman 89?
Yeah, that's a big question, right? I would think she would be from a different universe, not necessarily because her ethnicity is different from the typical version that you're familiar with in Supergirl, but it seems like if you pull the Supergirl from the quote-unquote Prime universe, you got to deal with all the Snyder stuff, right? You got to deal with the crashed spaceship and like the cameo and the Easter egg of the character and where she would have or not have shown up in that franchise. So yeah, just pull her from another universe, and she can just have her own kind of history and canon with the character. You don't have to worry about all that nonsense of universe that's not going to be around any longer.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, just go for it. I mean, here's the opportunity. If you want to build something consistent going forward, now's your time to introduce these characters and be like, oh yeah, we've already played around with this multiverse and these characters, and if it's going to change the universe to where it looks different going forward, here's the time to introduce some people for it.
I am going to be curious on the creative choice of her hair color, just because if you're talking about iconic looks of characters, I would say hair color is pretty important. If you think of like a character like Mara that has like red hair, I'm curious if she'll go blonde or they'll keep her brunette. I saw there is one kind of Photoshop concept artist that I follow on Instagram that's not Boss Logic. Unfortunately, I can't remember their name off the top of my head or their username, but they did a Photoshop of her with brunette and blonde hair, and it looked good either way. So we'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, and I believe I think when I saw the photos from the casting, she's naturally like a brunette, so it's fine either. Yeah, it's fine either way. Whatever. They want to have her brown hair, that's fine. Does the hair color make the character? Nah, not to me. Speaking of Zack Snyder, Mike. Oh, you thought I had Justice League news. I don't have Justice League news. I actually have his new movie, Army of the Dead, that he both directed and filmed himself. The trailer is coming out on Thursday for this movie, finally. I think we've been talking about it for like 2 years, it feels like. This is his first movie post when he left Justice League. Dave Bautista is in it. This movie is dropping May 21st on Netflix. So it's interesting. I'd like to see a zombie movie right now. I mean, we haven't had any in a minute, have we?
Yeah, like I think I need another data point for Zack Snyder, right? It's been a while since I've seen something like 300 or Watchmen, where I've been really enjoyed something that Snyder put together. So maybe this could be returned to form. So I looked up that artist. It was Detrinant Art. I don't really know how to say his name, but I'll put it in the show notes if you want to check out his comp of Supergirl.
Yeah. The other thing about this is Zack Snyder did the first movie I ever saw from Zack Snyder was actually his 2004 remake Dawn of the Dead, which is actually I think I'm not a zombie movie person, but I think it's a fun movie. Do you know that was also written by James Gunn?
I didn't know that was written by James Gunn.
So James Gunn wrote the 2004 Dawn of the Dead remake, which is survivors in a mall while the zombie apocalypse is going on, and Zack Snyder directed it, and then now he's doing his own movie, Army of the Dead, with other people. So I think this is I want to, like you said, I want to see him do something different than superheroes. So let's see what it is. And if he filmed it, my guess, I think they filmed it kind of during lockdown last year a little bit even. So it's probably gonna be smaller, intimate kind of film. So knock on wood, we get something that's not out there. All right, here's the meat of the show, Mike. We have some trailers. We watched three trailers this week, and in the first section of the trailer park, I think we have. I've been hyped for this movie. Everyone's like, "Why are you hyped for this Mortal Kombat movie, Chris? The first two suck. They suck so bad." And I'm like, "Well, it's R-rated. That's what I'm just gonna say." They dropped.
we can always be thankful that the original one gave us such a banger version of the Mortal Kombat theme. Man, I loved it.
Exactly. Like, that song will be in history, but those first two are kind of rough. But Mortal Kombat, this R-rated trailer for the upcoming movie, will be on HBO Max in theaters in April. They don't hold back, Mike. They give us the fatalities. They give us a bunch of characters, and it looks like it's going to be a quick kind of ride of a film with a lot of fights going on.
It's always fun when you see that red card at the beginning of a trailer because you know they're not going to be holding anything back. And we get to see Jax's arms ripped off. That was like the first bit of blood that you see. So I was like, oh, they're going all in on it. I think the two coolest things in the trailer is the blood being turned into a dagger from Sub-Zero, and I think that's kind of a way that they're kind of showing off like finishers.
The whole end was fatalities, like when they're like
fatalities. That's the word I'm trying to say, not finishers, fatalities, because he like stabs him with it, and then he makes like an ice wall and throws him through it as well. So it's a pretty awesome fatality right there. I'm expecting to see a spine at a place that it's not supposed to be. That was not in the trailer, but I feel like if you're making like a gruesome Mortal Kombat movie, we got to see a spine in some form. Maybe it'll come from a CG character, possibly. It might be a little bit easier to pull off.
Well, I don't think they're going to give us all the money shots in the trailer, Mike.
Exactly. And then Kano, he was my favorite character moment. He just looks crazy and wacky, similar to the kooky Australian Captain Boomerang we've been given, but with a laser eyeball. So I'm so hyped for this movie. This looks so fun, and I love that I don't have to go to a movie theater to watch it, because this is the perfect type of movie where I struggle if I want to see it in theaters, right? Like, do I really want to take time out of my day, drive to the movie theater, wager the pros and cons of sitting next to like a crazy person? I can just watch this in the comfort of my own home.
Right. And what's interesting is, like, we knew there was like a main character, and like, we seen the Jax and the Sub-Zero and the Scorpion, but I did not know there were so many characters in here. Like, like, even I'm pretty sure there's a shot of their version of Reptile in here. That's the heart that Kano pulls out there at the end. Goro, I didn't see coming either. The classic boss from Mortal Kombat, the four-armed Goro. He is four-armed, right? Or 6 arms? He's got a lot of arms, regardless. And
more than the normal amount.
Yep, and the Scorpion doing his little thing where he hits him with the thing. The get over here was kind of cheesy, but if you can't reference the game, what's the point? Like, that's the point. You want to see what you played when you were a kid come to life in this. So I'm really excited to watch this movie, and again, thankful I already have an HBO Max subscription. I don't have to go pay extra for it. So this is and it's only less than 2 months away, which is surprising. I thought we'd get a trailer sooner, but it'd be farther out. But I mean, here we are, April 16th, Mike. This is something we're gonna be reviewing on this show in April.
Damn straight.
That's the day after taxes are due, by the way, in case people got on their calendar. So get that done. Put that money towards your HBO Max subscription. Anything else you want to add? Did you notice that they had an instrumental version of the 90s theme song in there?
Yeah, it was in the back. They're teasing us. I know we're going to be getting we got to be getting a new version of it, and I'm sure it'll slap, and I'll love it.
Yeah. Maybe was it Junkie XL will do it for us. No, I'm kidding. But that's cool. Second trailer, an animated TV show for adults. Okay, keyboard warriors can actually, get ready for this one, is Invincible, the upcoming adaptation of Robert Kirkman's series that's going straight to Amazon Prime. And I think this looks pretty interesting. I actually hadn't seen all the characters or all the blood and gore that they're kind of throwing out there.
Or all the splash screens for all of the cameos, the voice acting cameos.
The voice actors, yeah.
Because there's no way there's that many recurring characters in the show. So it just seemed like Amazon was just like, or Robert Kirkman was just like, hey, you want to do me a favor? Just send me a voice memo on your phone. You can be a character in my show.
Well, so this book goes on for a while. There's like 150 issues, and then it moves through different time periods as the main character Mark kind of grows up. But again, the main character Stephen Yeun and his dad J.K. Simmons, great voices. Heard them right away. This looks like maybe they're doing the whole book series at once. It looked like they were kind of showing off some of the stuff later on in the series.
Yeah, I don't know. For somebody that doesn't know anything about the story at all, I am kind of curious because in this trailer they show that his father, voiced by J.K. Simmons, says like, "Oh, there's something I need to tell you, something that's going to change everything." There seems to be some sort of possibly big mystery that maybe sets up the larger plot for the show. But yeah, I don't really know anything about it, so I'm excited to check it out.
My only fear is that they do this panel for panel from the book, and they don't really change it when they have an opportunity to tweak it a little bit and change it, to fit television better, and possibly, if you've read it, and I know people read it, Superfan Jim, the show, he bought the big collector's edition recently. I don't want to just hit the same beats where you're not surprised. Twist some of this on our head. Have some fun with it a little bit, I guess. So that's my only fear, is that they do the same thing again. But either way, it looks pretty good. March 26th, Amazon Prime, another solid March release, Mike, for us right there. Lastly, this trailer doesn't really fall normally in what we would talk about on this show. However, there is a reason I want to bring this up, because Cruella, the prequel trailer for the Cruella de Vil movie, I guess for 101 Dalmatians, prequel to 101 Dalmatians, starring Emma Stone, dropped this week. And literally, I saw her name spray painted all over some large buildings, and the way her hair screams Joker to me. Like, is this
Joker
Disney's
vibes.
Joker? Like, what do you think? Like,
I mean, I'll give it points for it's a live-action Disney movie that's not just remaking an animated film. It seems to be taking a unique direction. It is a prequel, so it's not like we don't know where it could possibly go. But that's a big question that I saw a lot of the internet had, is you can't make Cruella redeemable. There's nothing that you can do, because it's not like, somebody that I don't think this is what happened to the character, but you can't have somebody that was like abused as like a child and they grow up to like not quite understand how right and wrong works, and then they start robbing banks, or they become a supervillain, right? She literally wants to murder puppies and turn them into a coat. So like, there's no redeeming the character. So like, is that Disney? Is that what they're gonna do? You like Maleficent, even though I haven't seen those movies with Angelina Jolie, but they redeem her character, right? She's not like totally
she's
100%
sympathetic,
evil. Yeah, I don't know how you do that with this character without totally changing like kind of her trajectory, right? It seems like they make a decision of either this does dovetail into the animated movie, or it goes in a totally different direction, and we're kind of making our own Cruella universe, right?
Yeah, I don't think they're gonna redeem her. I think they're setting up probably someone who was more sympathetic, and leaving us at the end of this movie where she is at the beginning of 101 Dalmatians. My wife had on 101 Dalmatians on the other day when she was working at home, and I just happened to kind of catch some of it, and I'm like, there's really no explanation for this character. She's just a large personality, right? Like the main guy wrote a song about her and about how evil she is. And there's nothing else about it. She just wants to make, she's all obsessed with fashion and being kind of crazy. So this one, it kind of looks like maybe she's obsessed with fashion, and then becomes disillusioned by all the people at the top, and just kind of goes crazy, like, if I can't have it my way, I'm just gonna burn it all to the ground. Because her name is actually Estella. I don't know if you read the description on the YouTube thing, and then she changes her name to Cruella by the end of it. But like, she has that, what is it, the Hunger Games, the dress that catches on fire and burns away from her.
I mean, it was like kind of cool, but at the same time, I was like, does that technology actually exist? And also, it was like CG, so it was kind of like, eh. But I don't know. I've never been a fan of the live-action Disney stuff, but I am a fan of Emma Stone. So at some point in time, I don't know when, but I'm sure this will drop on Disney Plus. And I'll just watch it there.
Yeah, I think it's still slated for a theater release, even though I think maybe they had been teased as a Disney Plus release. But yeah, I got to see. I mean, my household, we have to watch it. I'll tell you that right now. I don't get a choice. But I want to see kind of what is this Joker-esque looking world kind of is like. What is she doing? Because literally her name is written all over something in like the Joker paint kind of thing. There's the Harley Quinn duality of the two colored hair, which apparently everyone has two colored hair in this movie, it looks like. And then Emma Thompson, who is like her rival fashion person. She's a great actress anyway. So I think there's some solid points to pull out of here, but I don't think it's a must see for anybody. Transformers dropped some news on me this week, Mike, and I'm excited for this. You tell me what you think. The next live-action Transformers film will be called Beast Alliance.
Oh, you said the magic word, beast.
Beast.
All the alarms going off. You said the magic word.
Yep.
Yeah, Beast Wars, right? That's what it's got to be. How do you put that in there and not give us Beast Wars?
Exactly. So Beast Wars is set in like the prehistoric times, and this is set in the 90s, but I think they can adapt it to where all the Transformers are, in fact, the Beast versions, right, rather than cars. So this is also supposedly set in the same timeline as Bumblebee, which was, what, the 80s? Is that right? Or 90s?
I'm trying to remember. I honestly can't recall off the top of my head.
All right, I'm gonna have to pull it up here because I thought it was set in like the 80s because I'm like it didn't seem like it was in the 1987. So yeah, and people like that. I've not got to watch it yet. I actually kind of want to watch it after this news, but I'm very excited if they go along the Beast Wars and the Beast Machines era of Transformers.
It's gonna be so weird. I know we've talked about this before, but like a robot hiding as a semi truck on planet Earth makes sense. Yep. But like how the beasts look in Beast Wars, it doesn't matter what they look like because it's a prehistoric time. There's no humans. They technically don't even really need to hide at all. So when you have this weird giant gorilla so it's just like, are they going to land on Earth and be like, oh, we usually hide as cars, but I guess we'll hide as zoo animals because we landed by the zoo? I don't know. That might be.
They could.
I'm just trying to imagine an organic gorilla transforming in front of my own eyes on screen.
Well, they've got all those models from Dr. Dolittle that they're not going to use anymore. Because that's the thing with Beast Wars. Again, they're not realistic looking, right? There's huge wasps, huge spiders that they transform into. Even Rat Trap was a cheetah-sized rat. Like the bots are the same size. They don't shrink down to little bitty mouse-sized people, and they talk in their beast forms, right? So. Like, that was part of it because they didn't have to deal with humans. So, like, are they going to have the Beast talk like it? I don't think they're going to do Beast Wars exactly, but, like, at the same time, like, they've got to make this work in a way that makes sense because you can't just have, like, again, truck-sized Transformers turning into, like, a dog beside you.
It's just, like, Beast Wars is the perfect example of a cartoon that's made to sell toys. Like, because the narrative just does not make any sense at all. So when you set it in the 90s with humans, I don't know. It sounds like it's going to be wild.
Yeah. Well, maybe they're watching Beast Wars on TV in the 90s like we did, and they get ideas. But no, that whole every season in Beast Wars they changed how every character looks so they could make another toy along the way. Do you remember Fusors? It was like two animals in one. It was like a tiger that had wings of an eagle kind of thing.
Oh, that sounds badass. I don't remember it, but it sounds like I'd buy that toy.
Oh, I did. I had it. You best believe me. The Manta Ray one, it was like an XL Transformer. Oh, man. That's easier times. Did you ever watch the Running Man movie from the 80s with Arnold Schwarzenegger?
No, that's one I never caught, but that's one that's been in pop culture for so long. I already know the movie,
right?
Kind of deal.
So I love the Running Man. Like he's put in a game show where he has to fight for his life against these big like personalities, right? These big and then they're killing people, and it's all for TV. And if he wins, he gets money or whatever. Well, apparently this was a novel. I did not know this until recently, written by Stephen King. And the movie in the 80s has nothing to do with the Stephen King's novel. But Edgar Wright has signed on to direct a new adaptation of the novel that's more in line with King's movement.
All aboard the Edgar Wright hype train. I heard some whispers of rumors that there might be a sequel to Baby Driver, which didn't make any sense to me. So I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but I hope this takes precedent over it because this sounds like something I'd rather watch. But yeah, Edgar Wright. Edgar Wright is he's one of those directors, right? He's one of those directors where if any project gets announced, like you get excited. It's kind of like a Nolan movie, right? Like this is going to be a big deal because the director has become so prolific for a specific type of style or a specific type of creativity. So you could have said Edgar Wright to direct and fill in the blank, and I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to watch that.
Yeah. And I mean, not just Edgar Wright. I mean, I'm also going to say, Stephen King has had a revitalization about his movies getting remade lately, right? Like It and It Chapter 2, right? I think it was like the biggest movie of 2017 that was like R-rated.
I haven't got around to watching Dr. Sleep with Ewan McGregor, but I heard it was good, so I would like to watch that.
That, and then I think on CBS All Access, The Stand, the remake of The Stand is, or I guess an adaptation of The Stand was on there. So Yeah, I think that's great for both of them. I think that's a great matchup. I love the visual flair of Edgar Wright. One of my favorite moves of him is Scott Pilgrim versus the World, and that's very visually.
And it's an adaptation too, so he knows how to adapt.
Yeah, right from there. He was signed on for Ant-Man up until before the MCU was the MCU. So cool. Lastly, it's our favorite time of the episode, the WandaVision talks. We're gonna call this "Who Watches WandaVision?" We do. We're watching WandaVision. Episode 7 dropped this week, Mike, with 2 more left. If you've not watched episode 7, walk away, go watch it, come back, listen to this part of the episode. Time codes are in here for a reason. We put them down every week. I don't know if you guys notice this, but we always have time codes. But episode 7 dropped this week. Again, we were promised an hour-long episode, but it was kind of more like, 30 minutes or something like that before credits?
It was actually not even one of the longest episodes. I went and I looked at the runtime. I think the longest episode we've had was 2 episodes ago, and I believe it clocked in about 44 minutes. This one was sub 40 in the 30s somewhere. So I don't know exactly what Feige was talking about the other week. So maybe this week we'll have 90-minute episodes, or 60-minute episodes, or maybe just the last episode will be. But it seems like we have progressively gotten a little bit more story compared to the first couple episodes, which were very, very constrained by the type of plot mechanism they're using with those classic TV shows. Because a classic, like even black and white sitcom, if it starts to run more than like 30 minutes, you've already blown past the kind of template for those types of shows.
Yeah,
so
exactly. And this was very much based on Modern Family, right? Like, you could tell right away. They had the cutaways where she's talking to the camera.
Yeah, I think it felt a lot like Modern Family, maybe because of the indoor house setting. But I don't know if you caught it, but the theme song was very heavily influenced by The Office. Which makes a lot of sense, since The Office is the one that really popularized the 2-camera, kind of docu-style.
The theme song was The Office, but I think the setup was they've always said was Modern Family because of it was the at-home version, I guess, of The Office, where they had the cutaways. And then, I don't know if I noticed this, the scene last week where the hex was expanding, they replaced the music over it, so it seemed comedic this week. And last week it was super dramatic and tense. So I'm like, oh, they're actually playing with TV tropes. Like, the music will make the scene feel different than it is. So I thought that was really fun. And, this is one where... it kind of picked up from last week pretty straight away. She's still in the Sokovian fortune teller outfit as soon as it kicks off. But this was also really interesting to see her kind of, I guess maybe she was losing grasp on the hex because she expanded, because everything kept reverting back each decade.
We both kind of called it. I don't remember exactly what conversations we have on the show and what conversations we have in our group chats, but you called the Agnes reveal, I want to say maybe even a few weeks ago. And I think the other day I said, I think once they kind of hit that Modern Family, modern aesthetic, they might not progress the show anymore through different types of, tropes, but they will be flipping back and forth. And we got to see a little bit of that this episode where one is starting to kind of lose it, and the TV and the furniture and the fireplace kind of goes in and out of different decades as she becomes, I guess, less detached from reality.
Right. Exactly. Or maybe her power only goes so far right now, right? Maybe I think if she expanded it to keep everything going, because in the last episode the outskirts of town people were not moving or acting on their own, and this week
she's got to control a whole circus now.
Yeah, she had a whole circus. Again, like I said, if you told me several years ago that Darcy, Lewis, and Vision were going to commit grand theft auto on a funnel cake truck after punching out a clown, I'd have laughed at you. I'm like, no way, man, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. But that was pretty good. Even the Vision's cutaways were pretty entertaining. When he's outside of that at the carnival kind of thing, even though he's still in the truck getting blocked from coming back into town.
Yeah, we still, our 2 biggest questions that me and you have slightly debated about is what's going on with Vision and what's going on with Pietro, and I don't think we've necessarily had our answers yet, but we are starting to get more context, right? Because when the Vision and Darcy scenes happened, Darcy kind of filled Vision in on what the entire audience is thinking is, we don't know exactly what's happening to you. We don't know why you can't leave the Hex. You're supposed to be dead, so we don't know how you're alive either, but you don't quite seem to be the same as all these other puppets, so we still don't know what's going on with Vision. And we do get to see that Pietro is being controlled by purple Agnes magic, yes. But we don't know if he is literally created from nowhere from Agnes, or maybe Wanda legitimately did bring him into the Hex in some way or form, and then, Agnes just got her talons into him. Mm-hmm. So we still don't have quite more information on Pietro yet, except he seems to be more of an antagonist, at least now.
Right. And I still, again, lean towards when Wanda said, I didn't do that with Pietro. I think it's a little more Agatha related, and we're going to see probably, I think next episode is going to give us those answers for him a little, because he was literally the last thing we saw. This had an after credit scene, which was popularized in the late 90s, or late 2000s, early 2010s, and I thought that was interesting. But I think one of the bigger reveals is Spectrum. Monica Rambeau got her official powers by going back into the Hex, like we said. Hey, look, she's getting her powers, and she apparently can see like spectrum of energy. Like she sees energy because she saw like the power lines. She saw the purple energy in the basement. She does the superhero landing at one point. I'm excited to kind of see where she goes with that abilities.
The first thing I'm looking for is I'm waiting for somebody to say the word mutated, right? Nobody's dropped the M word in any shape or form with her. In the previously on, we got some clarification on Darcy said, oh, your cells are changing, they're rewriting themselves. So she never said the word mutated just yet. And that's got to be a conscious decision, because once you say that word in the Marvel universe, you're starting a whole thing off. It's not just like a slip, it's intentional whenever they're going to drop the M word. So I'm looking out for that.
Yeah. It's definitely going to be up in the air if that's what it is, or if she's going to be a special case. Again, like I said, the energy blast could go around the world and do stuff. But I think that's interesting to see her with these abilities, and she gets blue eyes when she uses them, which was a good tell of superpower things. It looks also like we found Agatha. It was Agatha all along. She got her own Munsters style theme song, and it went back
she killed the dog, just like you said.
I said she killed the dog, and she did it on purpose. That bitch. But where are the twins? Oh, actually, pause. We talked about it earlier. The scene. There's a scene when Wanda is finding out about Agatha being the villain. Matches up directly with a scene from It Chapter 2 when the one of the actresses is discovering that the old lady she's talking to is actually the clown. And I just sent you the photos to look at here, Mike, through text, so you can...
I don't know if that's intentional, but it is kind of interesting to see the side by side.
I think it is intentional. I think everything in this show, like, there are homages to things, right? Like, whenever Agatha, like, or not Agatha, when one's like, there's a weird viney portal in the basement. What is this? Where are the kids at? Like, Agatha didn't try to hide it from her anymore. She's like, I'm going to lure you into the basement and then tell you I can do magic as well.
The big question I have for you, Chris, is this a brand new character? Is Agatha new? Is Agatha pretending to be somebody else? Is this actually like going to end up being Mephisto and we're just getting a different name? I don't know.
Now, Agatha Harkness actually is been in the comic books for a long time, way back, I think maybe the 70s even. And she was like the person in the book. She actually trained Wanda to use her magic powers in the comic book a little bit. But she also has a son called Nicholas Scratch. And guess what the rabbit's name is in here? Senior Scratch. And as I pointed out to you in stories, history of the devil himself is called Old Scratch. So either the rabbit's the devil, the rabbit's her son, or it's all alluding to them bringing the devil into this universe, which could be Mephisto. But then everyone's like, everything's Mephisto.
Yeah, or it could possibly just be an Easter egg. Who knows? I mean, we do know for a fact that this show is going to dovetail into the Multiverse of Madness, and it would be so weird, if we don't see Mordo pop up in the Multiverse of Madness, since he was in the post-credit scene for the last Doctor Strange movie, right? So I don't think it's a stretch to say that there's a chance that Agnes and Mordo know each other in some aspects. In my head canon, I like to think that they're working together, and like Mordo's doing busier high-level stuff, so maybe he possibly sent Agnes to wherever, I guess New Jersey, to go manipulate Wanda. But who knows? That's just my guess, my theory. I don't have anything to pull from, but it would just be bizarre, if kind of like a little bizarre to me, if Agnes and Mordo just have no knowledge of each other, since they're both magic users.
They could be. I guess Agatha has purple magic, which we've not seen yet before, which I don't know what that means yet. But Mordo, since I just watched Doctor Strange 2 last week, Mordo specifically said no more sorcerers, right? He wants to rid the people of magic users. I don't think he would be sending in Agatha, another magic user, to do anything, because he's trying to get rid of the magic users. But I could totally see him being in the Multiverse of Madness. Now, do you think there's a book there in this ending, right, that looks like it belonged on the shelf of Doctor Strange, which was already missing a book? This could be the missing book from Doctor Strange.
I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't know people, eagle-eye viewers of Doctor Strange, were like, "Oh, there's a book missing in the background."
Yeah. Well, I think he even says there's a book missing, and we thought that was the one Caecilius took, but Caecilius only stole pages from a book. So I think that could be how it ties into this. This book could be like opening, the one pages were opening the dark dimension. This could be opening pages to a hell dimension or something like that, where Nightmare is, or Mephisto is.
Yeah, and you brought up a good point, which jogged my memory when I was actually watching the show, is we have seen a magical book before, kind of in the MCU. I don't know if you call the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. MCU anymore or not, but yeah, there was a Darkhold in there that had to do a lot with, I want to say it was like maybe 3 seasons from the end. I don't even really know.
Yeah, it was the Ghost Rider season. Yeah,
but I mean, that was a magical book that was in there, but it would seem weird to put that directly in WandaVision, but if S.H.I.E.L.D. ends up being technically in a multiverse, I suppose a magical book could exist across multiple planes. Who knows? But magical books are not something brand new that we know to the MCU.
The Darkhold was also in Runaway Season 3 by Morgan Le Fay. She had it in that so the Darkhold it kind of ties the TV shows together, and I think if they brought it in here, I think it would either prove or disprove that those shows are even canon. So the other thing I want to talk about is the commercial this week. It talked about the Nexus, the anti-depression drug. Nexus has a couple meanings. In the comic books, there's the Nexus of all realities, which you're like, oh, that sounds like a WandaVision kind of thing, doesn't it? But it's apparently where all the realities kind of like converge or like depart from. Swamp Thing actually has a big hand in that. But also, Nexus, if you remember, in Age of Ultron, was where Jarvis was found alive after Ultron tried to kill him. That's where Tony spent, was the Nexus internet hub, and pulled Jarvis from it. So this could either have a double entendre hint, like, oh, here's the Nexus of all realities, but also, hey, Nexus is where Jarvis was found alive. Will Vision be alive after this?
Yeah, I would kind of say, like, I could imagine calling your internet thing in your movie Nexus just because it sounds cool, right? And it makes a lot of sense. I'm writing the screenplay for Age of Ultron. What do I call this internet world? I'll just call it Nexus because it sounds cool. And who knows, I could have prior knowledge of the MCU, so maybe it'll just be a fun Easter egg, and not knowing that eventually it could actually be brought into the MCU. So who knows which way that could go. But we got 2 episodes left. I'm so stoked that we get WandaVision to watch every single week, and then I'll have to figure out something to do in between the downtime between Falcon and the Winter Soldier popping up, but that's not that long.
We got that one episode of the Assembled we talked about at the beginning.
Oh yeah, that's right, we can watch that.
So that'll keep us on schedule every Friday, tuning in to find the secrets. So all right, Mike, well, that's the episode for this week. We'll jump off here, let people get back to whatever they're doing, enjoying their week, having fun. If people want to know what you're up to, where can they find you at?
Well, they can find me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. I'm going to put those tie-dye reveal videos up there, so go check out the awesome tie-dye stuff that we did. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, where can they find you?
You can find me on Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN, or Instagram, Valdan87. If people know more about the show, get ready for our reviews from all these upcoming stuff in March or more, where can they find us at?
Oh, all you got to do is visit our hub, our nexus of the show, which is superheroslate.com. There's the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So I did add that in the show notes if you want to see that comp of Supergirl with a different hair color for that new actress who has just been cast. So go check it out and follow that dude on Instagram. He makes some cool stuff every once in a while. So you can check that out in the show notes, and you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you'd love to listen to fine podcasts. You can like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and you can get merch at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. Please reach out with what you're watching, what you're thinking about, just what you had for breakfast.
Yeah.
We just want to chat with you. What's going on? Yeah. We love hearing from our super fans, and if you want to be a super fan of the show, it's so easy to do. It's so easy. All you got to do is share the show with a friend, share the show with a buddy. Make sure that you're wearing your mask and socially distancing, because not everybody's getting vaccinated. Out here on the West Coast, things are slow and frustrating. So please make sure that you're keeping everybody safe, because we want to go back to the movie theaters eventually, and hopefully maybe by the end of the year. That James Bond movie can finally come out, right? And Black Widow. Waiting for that one for a while. But, yeah, there you go. Another episode, another week of Superhero Slate.
Yeah, and we'll catch you guys next week.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
They're okay, but they're still fucking
They're
Peeps.
Okay. This just in.
They're still fucking Peeps is the problem. Like, I don't like Peeps.
It's just marshmallow, and it's low-grade marshmallow, too.
Yeah. Dipped in cream-flavored fudge.